Good morning.
Good morning.
Trust everyone rested in the silence, and thank you for that great meditation this morning. Welcome to Bergamo, September 25th, 2010. First class. Title of the class, Behold, I Make All Things New. It was just yelling at me there for a few weeks, and what was standing out the most was I, the big I make all things new. And the louder that the news reports and the items that were coming over through people who listen to the news and take it all in and believe it, the louder this would scream at me, behold, I make all things new. And I came back to the scripture that came from, which is Revelation 21. And John, when he was on the island of Patmos, was given this prophecy, revelation. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, See, the home of God is among mortals. He will dwell with them, they will be his peoples, and God himself will be with them. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more, for the first things have passed away. And write this, See, I am making all things new. Write this, for these words are trustworthy and true. Then he said, It is done, for I am the Alpha and the Omega, which is the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water as a gift from the spring of the water of life. Those who conquer will inherit these things, and I will be their God, and they will be my children. And then it goes on, and he comes up to speaking of the river of life. Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and the Lamb through the middle of the street of the city. On either side of the river is the tree of life, with its 12 kinds of fruit, producing its fruits each month. And the leaves of the trees are for healing of the nations. Nothing accursed will be found there anymore, but the throne of God and of the Lamb will be in it, and his servants will worship him. They will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads. And there will be no more night. They need no light of lamp or sun, for the Lord of God will be their light, and they will reign forever and ever. These words are trustworthy and true. For the Lord, the God of spirits of the prophets, has sent his angel to show his servants what must soon take place. Blessed is the one who keeps the words of the prophecy of this book. Of course, there's a lot of analogy in those scriptures. It speaks of the sea no more. Many, Joel included, Joel and Herb Fitch went into great detail on the book of Revelation, explaining that the sea was the universal consciousness of mankind, and as the scripture said, it would be no more. That sea of humanity, that conditioning, the perceptions that are projected out there on everything. And one of the reasons that I gave the assignment for preparation for the class from the Infinite Way book, it was the only book that Joel actually wrote through himself, that came through Joel's writings. The rest were all from his verbal classwork as edited by Lorraine, which is fantastic. But in this book, The Infinite Way, there is promise after promise in those 2 chapters that I gave you. Realization of existence, what did I give you here? Our real existence and soul. And especially in the soul chapter, there is so much hope and promise. And the weight of the world seems to be heavy right now with so much sense of there's not going to be enough, lack, limitation. It comes over in the way of finances. In Wall Street, the stock market, there's not going to be enough. Gold is up, silver is up, this is up, that's down. The next day the other's up, then that's down, and along with that, the sea of mankind who are not firmly grounded in the principle of the assurances that we are working with on a weekly basis. In fact, this week's, I think I have a copy up here. This exact week's is on abundance for live always in the understanding that God isn't giving supply, but that God is the bread, the meat, the wine, and the water. Now, why would we be standing on these if we already deeply, deeply know it within our own heart and soul? And many of you have been on this path 40 years. I've been on it over 30. Why would we keep doing these, I call them assurances rather than affirmations, I call them assurances. And what we are doing with them as we work with them all week long, as that news comes up, as that headline hits, we love Obama and then now we don't, and then we do, and then we don't, and whatever's going on, as the roller coaster of the world mind wants to take you to a high and then to a low and then to a high and then to a low, don't buy the ticket. Don't get on the ride. Stand firm, because as we stand firm with these assurances, we are sending that out, and that roller coaster ride will get less and less and less. For it is the time that those prophecies, those promises of revelation, behold, I make all things new. Not you and I, not our president, not the king and queen of England or whatever country, not the president of Mexico, not the leader of the free nation, not the leader of the Chinese nation or the Indian or whatever you want to go to. There is no chief, there is no president higher than I. And as you and I, in our little efforts of coming together in group conscience, standing on, live always in the understanding that God isn't giving supply. Neither is Wall Street. Neither is the gold or silver stored up. That's not our supply. It can come as that, It comes through as that. But if every bit of it was wiped out, something else would take its place. We've learned this from history. As the horses, there was a big epidemic on horses there for a while, years and years ago, and suddenly we became with horsepower under the engine of the car. And God forbid, look what's happened now. LA, everybody, one car per person, you know. Families don't have cars anymore. Every person in the family has a car. Why would that be? Because everyone is feeling the call to freedom. If I do nothing else as I speak and as I live my life, it's about freedom. Freedom from bondage. Freedom from bondage of all the outer conditioning. Freedom, freedom, freedom. We want freedom. There's a big ploy out now to go back to make sure that our Declaration of Independence is being held up. What's the term that's being used right now in political? George, you know that term? Everybody's going, making sure that well, anyway, it's kind of a pop term now, and it's not coming to me. Maybe it will. But the point is, who is going to free me? Who is going to free you from these beliefs of power greater than God, power outside ourselves, the power to give or to take away? Who is going to free us but us? And as we stand on I and my Father are one, the kingdom of God is within. Nothing can come nigh unto my dwelling place as you and I stand on these assurances, as we stand on these understandings, as we stand on these remembrances. What we're doing is we're bringing them to remembrance, bringing these things that these remembrances, one a week we're standing on, as we stand individually and collectively on these remembrances that we have been working with, and we're going to continue working with. As we stand, it goes out into that world mind, and little by little by little, others start to say, wait just a moment here. Are we saying these powers of government, are we saying they are more powerful than God, the I of my being, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone, God appearing as individual being? God constitutes my being. Now, I have taken these words of Joel's, and the stapled copies back there on the table have the dates so that you can start right now, and that there's some people were getting confused with where we were. So I've dated you all the way through May, but that's because I didn't know when Bergamo went in. So let's take them through spring and stand weekly. And the more you hear that news report or see that headline, grab the one up for that week and stand firm and say, oh no, Joel and God and the Master Jesus Christ is reassuring me, is reminding me that no, and as I said, live always in the understanding that God is not giving supply. It's already given. It is you. You are giving supply. It is coming in you, as you, through you, out. You give the supply. And what is needed more now than strengthening of faith, strengthening of, and I don't like the word so much, but boy do we need it, hope. Hope is something that from time to time has been abolished within me, and I know Mary Hunt abolished it one time, because hope has a sense that it's not here right now. But the world needs hope, because for many in the world it isn't here right now, in their conditioning, in what they're believing, in their fear, in the terrorism that runs through them when they hear of lack and limitation and no jobs and no money and on and on and on. What we need for the world is that hope, is that knowing that yes, indeed, as I quiet down, as I trust, as I go in and stand firm right there, presence, God, here, now. Behold, I make all things new, not tomorrow. Behold, I make all things new now, this moment, upon recognition. And what is being made new? My thinking, my awakening, my way of knowing. Wait just a moment. I and my Father are one, and if God constitutes my being, why in the world would I fear? If God is living its life as me, as you, then behold, God makes all things new, moment by moment, hour by hour, day by day. However, upon my recognition of opening and being receptive of that information. Behold, there is a new heaven and a new earth. Where is that heaven? Right here. Where is that earth? Right here. Both. Standing in the earth, holding consciousness of the heaven, walking between two worlds, day by day, moment by moment, heartbeat by heartbeat. It is I. Only I, always right there, but where? Where is right there? Home. Home within my being. Fear not. It is I. Presence. Right there. And if you get hypnotized, clap your hands. Where's God? Right between the claps. Right there. Moment by moment by moment. Between the claps. Split second of recognition. Split second of remembrance. I'm getting caught up. I'm getting hypnotized. Ah, God. What was I thinking? I have a new book. It's called Enlightenment is Not What You Think. And his other book, and I love it, I pick it up from time to time, is called Never Mind. So this is the term I'm using when I hear these things now. Never mind, Dulcie, never mind, because it is never mind that's going to remove the fear. It is soul, it is consciousness working through that computer. It is the mind of God that says, wake up, present. Now, where were you going off with that story? Where were you going? Never mind, don't pick it up. Don't pick up the story. Don't pick up the drama. So-and-so is very ill. They may not make it. Never mind. Don't go in the mind about it. Don't tell the story about, ain't it awful? Oh, what will happen to this? No, never mind. Go into the heart. Go into the soul. Go into knowing right, wait just a moment. If God is living my life as me, then God is living the life as Sally, Joe, Mo. Well, therefore, what business is it of mine what their story is, what their lesson is, what their lifespan is? Why do I think I could ever know better than the God that is living the life of that being? And Joel says it beautifully, judge not by appearances. Sure looks scary. There's that story. Not only us, but the whole world not going to have enough. How could that be? Never mind. Get out of the mind. Get out of the drama. Don't tell the story. And for God's sakes, don't go back and tell the story of, well, it's because my mother or my father or my ancestors. Let's drop all of that now. We've been on the path long enough. We've all done our inventories of our past conditioning, of why we react the way we do according to what is put in front of us as the story or the drama. We're done with that. Let the dead bury the dead. Let the dead stories lay down. And let's live present now in this new world. Behold, I make all things new. I make all things new. But what about me? Am I still dragging up the... Even though God says, I make all things new, here, now, present, am I going to go back and drag that old nonsense up into this beautiful moment? Let's live now. Out of story. Out of drama. Never mind. Just never mind. It's not what you think. It's what you are. Live in it. Walk out into what you are. As Joel says, no, you are not God, but God is you. He was very plain, the difference. What does that require of me? That requires me to stop so much dialoguing with myself, stopping the planning, the manipulating, the managing, the conjuring up, the scheduling. It requires me to become the watcher. Behold, God is making it new. This moment, and now this moment, and now this moment. As long as I don't come in and defile it with my story about how it should have happened different, and if only they had said, and if only I had, and if only the world, and if only Obama, and if only... Wait a minute. Right here where I am is the kingdom. The Master was very clear. The kingdom of God is within. The kingdom is no part of this world. We keep trying to make this world the kingdom. When we go in, and as we look out from the kingdom within, we see perfection. We see the roses coming out on the bushes. We see like begetting like. We see God's love. George and I were walking at Sharon Lake down in Cincinnati. I guess it was yesterday. Yeah, it was. And I mean, there was no drama, no story being told in that woods other than pure perfection. walking around that lake, feeling that sun, listening to the music of the insects. There's some cards out on the counter there that there's a website now where you can dial in. They're laying on the counter, and you can hear these sounds of nature. And you know, those are the stories I like. You don't hear the bugs telling a drama about, oh gee, tomorrow I will die because I only have a 24-hour lifespan. You don't hear that. You don't hear the birds singing, saying, what if the big crow comes and gets all my children? You don't hear any of nature going into the stories, the fear drama. It's not there. What you hear is God, here, now, music to my ears. Peaceful, blissful, hope and faith. Here now. The whole of nature sings out now, now, now. It tells you no story about the past, not even yesterday. It tells you no story about tomorrow. And within that is the peace of now. And you come across a deer on the trail. It is not telling you any drama or any tale or making up any fear to tell you. It's speaking of wow, now, here. So let's stand on these contemplatives that Joel put down. And I'm going to play the tape that these came from. I'm not sure which part, whether tonight or when, but or tomorrow perhaps. I'm going to play this tape where the assurances are. Now, I didn't hear them on there, but we're told that's where they are, so we'll see. Maybe I fell asleep. I kept trying to hear them, so let me know if we hear them. But anyway, as I don't even know where I got these. I know they came out of one of Joel's books, and I know that the copy I had said what tape they were from, so we'll see. But anyway, things come to me like that in boxes of, well, where did that come from? But so we'll all begin these together, and then I wanted to just mention second Sunday's conference lines, and I put the number back on the table, and we'll come together. And what I would like to do is for all of us to continue working with these. But what I'd like to do is go over the soul chapter together on Sundays for that half hour. So if everyone will have the Infinite Way book with them, or get someone to copy that chapter for you, so you can have a copy with you. Let's slowly go through that chapter together, because it is just so much faith and hope and promises. That's what's in there. There are so many promises in those two chapters, our real existence and soul. The promises are just phenomenal. So we'll work with those. Perhaps after we do the soul, we'll go back and do the existence, our real existence chapter together. But that way our second Sundays together will have a little more meat to them, as we'll become a study group. And like I say, as a group, we will continue these too. I put both I made you plain copies without dates, and then I made you copies stapled together with all the dates, so that it won't be so confusing. So I wanted to get that out of the way. Talking about freedom, I've talked about the different teachers that I have sat at their feet, and which ones taught me what. I know I've said it before, the different teachers, Doris being the teacher of love. I believe Virginia, Stevenson was where I learned so much about the healing presence. And Mary Hunt taught me so much about the silence and the listening. And I don't know, the word that keeps coming to me is freedom. My journey seems to be one of freeing myself and those who come to me from their concepts, from their old beliefs, from the old dramas. Freedom from the fear. Freedom from the bondage of self. That's the freedom. And that's what enlightenment is being so free that you're not the least bit concerned about the little self or the little selves of others. And, you know, in the physical, third-dimensional world, I came across this during the 4th of July period of time. It was sent to me, and I don't know if you all saw this, but if you think your struggle for spiritual freedom is a tough one, and we talk a lot about the dark nights of the soul and the battle between spirit and flesh, the battle between heaven and hell within us, and the different things where we're wrestling with the angels through the night. I don't know who was wrestling last night between 2:30 and 4:30, but I was up and working, and you know, did we really think this path was just going to sail us in this happy, joyous, and blissful feeling without having to undo so much of the old conditioning, the old perceptions? And I get caught all the time. Before I left Phoenix on Thursday, I had the third time. 3 times I was proven wrong. And I thought, isn't that interesting, you know, because I had a preconditioned idea of what something was based on how it had been the last time I flew. And I was standing on that because, by God, it was my experience, and that's the way it was then. And within a half an hour, actually, Bud brought me to the airport, and he was trying to tell me it was something different. And I was like, no, by God, when I flew the last time, what, you know. And within a half an hour, 3 of the things proved to be wrong because I was based on the last time, which hadn't been that long ago. And his experience had been completely different. And I kept saying, well, that was a different airline, blah, blah, blah. But it was so fun because what I found out as I watched, this was interesting. As I watched, my preconceived notions, based on based on experience of what it was a month ago, and Bud's preconceived notion, based on his experience, were completely different. And the interesting thing was, I saw that because he was standing, demanding it be that way, and I finally just let it all go and watched how it came about. I saw how the mind creates out there, and I saw how it worked, and it was just fascinating, especially if you guys are, you know, in a work situation with another person, or it doesn't matter, a relationship of any 2 people doing whatever it is they're doing. How the 2 minds with the preconceived ideas, it's like the one insisting on holding it the tightest seems to manifest it out there. And it's just not worth it to me anymore. But I just watch that, and I see how we create everything out there based on conditioning. And sometimes it's to our benefit, and sometimes it isn't. But getting back to the freedom that we long for, the freedom of that bondage of the little self, the egomaniac, the little person that's going to hold on to their ideas. You know, Barbara Muhl, my other teacher, she was given 3 admonitions as just before she left of kind of commandments of what we are to do with this message of Joel's from here forward. And the first thing we were to do was destroy our belief systems. Get rid of the old ideas. And the second thing we were told to do was learn to be real. Stripped of all the stories we tell of ourselves or others. Learn to be real. Learn to be authentic. And the third one was learn to love. And she always said, and I heard it and I love to say it, the world is not dying from lack of information. It's dying from lack of love. So those are the 3 things that as I learn my surrender and as I get myself free of preconceived ideas, when I release Dulcie from the bondage of self, of conditioned self, I learn that I get to let go of old beliefs. I get to learn to be real or authentic. I get to learn to love, unconditional love. Whether they're loving me or not, I get to love them. And all of that comes into one word that is my most favorite quest: freedom. Freedom from the world's beliefs, freedom from anything that holds me in bondage, from listening to that still small voice, that sense of God that is living its life as trying its best to beat itself through all of these, oh no, it's got to be this way, I can't move, I got to stay here, I got to go there, whatever it is. Don't dare have a Pontiac instead of a Buick because my father, or whatever those things. I heard them, I have to buy Buicks because my father always did. You know, all of that stuff. Where's the freedom? Where's the freedom of being? Just being. But getting back to this that came to me about freedom, regarding the Declaration of Independence, have you ever wondered what happened to the 56 men who signed the Declaration? Have you guys ever heard this? This is phenomenal. You think you got it tough on the spiritual path? 56 men signed it. And I think that's what, oh gosh, I wish I could think of what this big ploy is now, but it's to make sure that the Declaration is upheld. Anyway, 5 signers were captured by the British as traitors and tortured before they died. 12 had their homes ransacked and burned. 2 lost their sons serving in the Revolutionary Army. Another had 2 sons captured. 9 of the 56 fought and died from wounds of hardships of the Revolutionary War. They signed and they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. What kind of men were they? 24 were lawyers and jurists, 11 were merchants, 9 were farmers and large plantation owners, men of means, well educated, but they signed the Declaration of Independence knowing full well that the penalty would be death if they were captured. Carter Braxton of Virginia, a wealthy planter and trader, saw his ship swept from the seas by the British Navy. He sold his home and properties to pay his debts and died in rags. Thomas McKean was so hounded by the British that he was forced to move his family almost constantly. He served in the Congress without pay, and his family was kept in hiding. His possessions were taken from him, and poverty was his reward. Vandals or soldiers looted the properties of Dillery, Hall, Clymer, Walton, Gwinnett, Hayward, Rutledge, and Middleton. At the Battle of Yorktown, Thomas Nelson Jr. noted that the British General Cornwallis had taken over the Nelsons' home for his headquarters, and he quietly urged General George Washington to open fire. The home was destroyed, and Nelson died bankrupt. Francis Lewis had his home and properties destroyed. The enemy jailed his wife, and she died within a few months in prison. John Hart was driven from his wife's bedside as she was dying. Their 13 children fled for their lives. His fields and his grist mills were laid to waste. For more than a year he lived in the forest and caves, returning home to find his wife dead and his children vanished. So take a few minutes while thinking of the Declaration of Independence. It's not much to ask for the price they paid. Remember, freedom is never free. These are men that believed so strongly in that Declaration of Independence that they gave their lives, and we're so cherishing of our little personality selves, our little egos. And what our quest is the freedom of spirit. You know, we don't go through anything like this. We go through it on the inner plane. Well, we can lose things. Sure, I've been wiped out 2 or 3 different times, complete financially. And I know what that feels like, and I know that it doesn't matter, that having lost it all, it showed me that it was right there where I was. And I never did without food or clothing, as these people did. Something was always there, something greater than myself. I'm not so sure why I was led to read that, but it struck me very strongly that that as bad as we think we get it, and as fearful as so many are of losing homes and jobs and things, you know, what else is new on this planet? You know, standing up for your truth, your inner truth, can mean the loss of those things. But what do we gain? I don't know about the gentleman that did the declaration. I don't know what the outcome was. But I know here where we are, we put our lives on the line in the way of giving up what we think they ought to look like. And we come to a basic surrender. Surrendering of what? Are you surrendering your plantations, your children? What are you surrendering? We're surrendering our old ideas. We're coming home. We're coming home to the truth that, behold, I make all things new. And when we allow God to live our life and to make all things new, talk about the freedom. So whatever you have a clenched fist around, whether it be health or wealth, finance, romance, let it go. Let that hand open. Be free. Be free to receive. You know, when we're grasping those things like that, we have no receptivity. Open the hands. Allow all of that. Set it free. Set free your story around the people around you. Set free your dramas about whether you'll have enough tomorrow. You are enough. Now, it's you that is enough, not the stuff. You ain't going to take it with you. And I have proof. My friend Helen Bigelow had a husband who was I call him a tinkerman, like in London, the old tinkerman. This man went out every single weekend to every yard sale and drug home the most god-awful pile of stuff you ever saw in your life. And we would laugh, broken jacuzzi tubs. Everything was broken, but boy, this man would drag it home because he saw a purpose for it. And they lived up in San Luis Obispo, and I went up to stay with them, visit from time to time after Silomar and things. And I mean, he had acres and barns full of rusted everything. He had 4 or 5 plows and old tractors that he knew he could get working one day, It was piles and piles. So the day came that they were going to sell their vineyards and move to Phoenix because it would be warmer and they were getting older and they'd be near his brothers, and he had several of them. And so they got rid of all the junk. It took tons and tons of trucks to carry it all, and they moved into this lovely big house down in outside of Phoenix in Glendale, and big acre land, all walled in, and we looked out and it was just empty and beautiful. Well, within a year and a half, that backyard looked just like it did up in Tinkerland, and we would laugh, and it was such a hobby for him, and he got such pleasure out of it. And the last time I was there when he was alive, he was not well at all, but boy, he could go, and he knew he was going to make all of those things work. A lot of times he did. Sometimes he'd come home with Tiffany watches and things that people sold for $2 and didn't know what they were, And he got so much pleasure. But last time I saw Jim, I was there and his yard was full, and I looked out and I went, isn't that interesting how our consciousness remanifests exactly what our love is or what we do, and there it was. Well, he passed. And I came back and I stopped at the house and before the memorial service at our brother's house, and I went out and I looked and it was all the stuff was there. And I said, well, see, you can't take it with you. And a week later, I came by, and every bit of it was gone. And I went, why, you can take it with you. So at the memorial, actually, I think that's what had happened. It was all gone, and I went to the memorial, and I remember that was the thing. I said, well, Jim has proven the scripture wrong. You can take it with you, because it was all gone. And, the truth is, of course, the kids all got rid of it, but the thing is you can't take it with you, So all of that material stuff that the hands are so tight around, as we release it, as we free ourselves, as we free our hands, then we can be that wonderful instrument of receptivity. And it doesn't mean you can't enjoy your homes and your cars and the things of abundance and that we love, but love them like this. Love them with the hand open, for they truly come and they truly go. They truly come and they truly go. But I, right here, home, where I am, that's the abundance. This is where the abundance is, here now. Behold, I make all things new. And if it is all wiped out today, tomorrow, behold, I make all things new. All things. He didn't say some things. He didn't say certain things. He said, behold, I make all things new, the new heavens and the new earth. Behold, here now. And you see, we're not waiting for John's revelation to become true. It is true here now, right now. It is new. It is true. It is new here now. Behold, but, see, that's the secret. We must behold it. We must see it. We must be assured of it. We must live always in the remembrance that God is making all things new, moment by moment by moment. So let's go back into the silence and be aware, be assured, be assured